Welcome to Story Chats at Inspi Romance. I'm Elizabeth Madry, and I'm here with my two co-hosts.
I'm Narelle Atkins.
I'm Valerie Comer.
Hey, we are talking about three of our favorite Christmas books. Some of this is because we will not be having an episode on Christmas Eve. We didn't figure most of you probably wanted to tune into Story Chats on Christmas Eve. You probably have better things to be doing with your time.
So did we.
And so did we. Yeah. And so did we. So there will be no episode next week. But we wanted to talk this week about these. We chose three, and there probably were more than three that we could have chosen from, but these are the three we landed on. Christmas romances that we come back to year after year. That we just really enjoy. So based on that, these are somewhat older books. Because we come back to them. So they did not just get released, 2 months ago, but
or even in the last year.
Oh, that's true. They're
all a little bit older.
Yeah, they are.
Oldies but goodies.
Yeah. And that's exactly what it is oldies but goodies. So we're going to start with Valerie's pick. And so I'm going to just go, Valerie.
All right. When we started chatting, what was it, back in September, we were like, we should do an episode like this. And it took us, I don't know, 30 seconds, maybe, not very long, to each come up with a book that we love to reread, that all of us were like, yeah, me too. I love that one too. And the one that I came up with in that very quick little conversation was a kind of country Christmas. That is hard to say. Krista Phillips, who is the author. And so as we talked about that, we decided we would all reread all three books in case we weren't planning to this year, but maybe we were anyway. So I dug them out and reread, and I reread this one of Krista's, which kicks off her kind of sort of series, which was all a lot of fun. This particular one, Sadie owns a Christmas shop in Gatlinburg, and it was left to her by her parents who have passed away. And she's a single mom of Mari, a girl who's about to head off to college. So not your typical single mom story where you've got like a preschooler or something like that, or small child. Not a little kid with a lisp.
Sassy 18-year-old.
Sassy.
And she's young, isn't she? And Sadie's quite young too.
Yeah, she was very young when she had Mari. And so, the two of them are all they have left in the world, kind of thing. And this Christmas shop. So Sadie, the mom, has just finished decorating the main display tree in her store, and she has poured money into it and spent a lot of time planning it. And these are very expensive ornaments that are on it. And I tell you that because it's important. And then Nate wanders inside. And she's still supposed to be closed, but she opened up when she saw somebody looking in the window. And it just seems like it doesn't take very many minutes before suddenly Nate steps into the tree and it falls on him, and the tree breaks and all the ornaments break, or maybe not quite all, but pretty much all.
But a lot of them.
A lot of them. So Krista is good at kind of rom-com. So you could do this in a, that's terrible sort of way, or you could do it in Krista's way, in which you just sit there and laugh. You go, oh my word, that must have been so funny to see. Anyway, it's not funny, right? This guy's like bleeding from these glass ornaments, but whatever. She does not want to see him again, for kind of obvious reasons. He offers to pay for everything, and she's just like, get out of here. And so he leaves because whatever. But of course, as romance novels would have it, he happens to be the elusive brother of her best friend. And he is a globe-trotting business owner who's struck it rich. And he's in town for the holidays. He keeps promising his sister he's going to show up for Christmas one year, and he keeps not doing it. So this year he's like, here, hello, I'm here. And her sister, her friend, decides that they need to meet each other. And lo and behold, they've already met. So in typical Krista fashion, that re-meeting and so forth does not go easily, and it does not go well. So why did I come back to this one? Well, honestly, I don't reread, hardly ever. But when we began talking about this, it was one of the first stories that popped into my mind. It was, other than the ones that Beth and Narelle mentioned, the first one. I love Krista's humor, and I've said before, and I think maybe we've talked about it in multiple shows to some extent or another, but not everybody's sense of humor is the same, right? When you find an author that has your sense of humor, then you should go and read more books by that author. And so if you like my sense of humor, hopefully you'll like Krista's as well. So I also honestly like that it was short. Doesn't take a lot of time to reread. You can just pop into Gatlinburg. You've got this little sweet and savory story, and then you can pop back out again and just sit back and go, that was lovely. So you guys have reread this, read and reread, right? What did you think? What did you like about it?
Agree that the meet cute is fantastic with him, especially because Mary has been harping at her mom about the tree design in the first place, because the mom is not really into the country kitsch burlap and gingham, kind of down home Christmas stuff that their store is more sort of known for. And so this was finally her year. She was completely in charge. So she was doing like sleek New York City monochrome and fancy, which is why it cost more. And her daughter was just like, Mom, that's not what we do, that nobody wants this. So then for him to,
and she's like, but I want this.
Right.
Yeah.
To break it was even a bigger slap, because she's like, now I don't even get to see if it would have gone over because he's ruined it. And so she lets the daughter, she's like, go get the other tree and you can do it fine. And then, stuff is already flying off the tree as soon as they open, because everybody wants the gingham and the burlap. And, it's just yet another little slap. I love how Krista manages funny with still real depth. And, Sadie has this whole crisis of, who am I really? Now that I'm in charge of this store, and that sort of, she has these expectations of who she thinks she's supposed to be versus who she really wants to be, and figuring out how to mesh those. And Krista tackles it while leaving you laughing, just holding your sides laughing the whole time.
Yes. Yeah. And I think it's one of the things that people will complain about with novellas is that it's not a complete story. I feel like it should have been longer. I didn't get enough from it, enough meat, whereas Krista's story is short. I reread it in one sitting. Like, you just open it, read it. It's beautiful. I love reading novellas like that. And she gets so much meat into it. And also the faith element is just really well done in this book as well. And I think Christmas and home is often a theme that authors will go to in terms of where is home, where is Christmas. And both the characters, he doesn't actually really have a home. So he's just come back, I think, from Beijing in the story, somewhere in Asia. Yeah. And potentially has opportunity to go back to Asia. And he might have he has a holiday house, maybe in North Carolina, something like that could be home, but it's a holiday house. And none of us would think of a holiday house as being home. But for him, that's the closest he has, other than where his sister is. And she's got her daughter about to go off to college and hasn't gone to college yet because of finances. And the shop is what's meant to be paying for the college tuition, and suddenly the Christmas tree just gets broken, and it's like all her dreams get smashed with all the glass on the floor.
Yeah.
So the metaphors were just very clever in this book. So it's a really fun book if you want to read a Christmas book that has a very good message that goes with it, and has enough meat to keep you happy for the length as well.
Now you laugh.
I also really like the fact that Nate is bald, and she kind of makes, you know, a point of it, because she, you know, you think of our typical hero is not this bald billionaire. I mean, he's maybe not a billionaire, but he's wealthy. And he's, but you know, I just think it was unique because you don't see a lot of bald heroes, but bald men are very handsome. So, I mean, can be, not maybe not all of them,
sure.
Right. But it was unique as well.
Oh, you're right about that. And seeing like Sadie fight through this thing, like with her parents having left her this store, and it was their dream, it wasn't her dream, and yet she feels like she needs to do it for their sake, and for her daughter's sake, because this is how her daughter's going to be able to go to college. And for all of the different layers work together really well. And you know what, I'm getting this vision of us all back in high school in English class where the teacher goes, don't you think it was significant that the curtains were blue? And you're like, I think they were just blue, you know. But so I hope that we haven't tortured Sadie and Nate too thoroughly in this, and the upcoming books that we're going to talk about, that we don't dissect them to the point where you might think that they're not fun to read, because first and foremost, they're just books that we really enjoyed.
That, I mean, again, I don't think you can overstate how funny Krista Phillips is, without being slapstick or trying too hard. You know, it's not, oh, that was supposed to be a joke, haha. It's like you giggle before you realize, you know, what's happening.
Super fond of people doing the same clumsy thing like 15 times. I'm just like, oh, get over it already. But I never feel that with Krista's humor. It always seems to be spot on.
But it moves beyond situational. So it's not necessarily, yes, the situation with the tree was hilarious. And it was like, oh my goodness, this is just a disaster. But it's also then how she responds to that, and then the situation she gets into and the way she responds to it. And it sort of just keeps rolling. The humor starts as like a little snowball going down the hill, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and you laugh and laugh and laugh as it goes. So it's a fabulous, hilarious Christmas ride.
Yeah.
And better yet is that there are several more novellas in the series. So you also get eventually her Nate's sister's story and Sadie's daughter's story, and possibly others I don't remember. So even though it's novellas, there's more going on.
Yeah, it's not a one and done.
Yeah.
All right. So the next one is actually my pick, and I've mentioned it on the podcast
once or twice,
probably 600 times. I feel like. And that is Nowhere for Christmas by Heather Gray. So it's funny, we chose two rom-coms because Heather's book, I just laugh almost from page one to the end, because it is just hilarious. It's the road trip. If you I mean, it's almost it's a clean version of like National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation level of hilarity road trip madness. Now he's gonna leave me. So
if anything could possibly go wrong,
it did in the most hilarious
times.
Yes, with bells on.
Which is like the worst possible outcome. And so it starts out with and I've now forgotten her name completely, the heroine. Anyway, she
write it down.
Avery. It's Avery, isn't it?
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it is. Yes.
We'll pretend it is.
Yeah.
If we're wrong.
It is Avery.
Heather,
it's Avery and Gavin. I wrote it down.
Okay.
And what's the teenage boy's name?
What's
Eli.
Eli. Yes.
Okay.
So
There's Avery and Gavin and Eli. Yes.
Avery is a single mom to Eli, and he's 14 to 16 in range, somewhere in there, teenager. She is a younger single mom. She got pregnant in college. But she is a reporter, and her column on small towns is going to be syndicated if she goes to the towns that the larger newspaper company wants her to go to. And they have demanded that she visit Nowhere, Oklahoma for Christmas, because supposedly it's supposed to be amazing at Christmas. So she's supposed to get in a car with her son and a photographer and go to Nowhere, Oklahoma from Albuquerque, New Mexico, and take some pictures, write a story, get to see it at Christmas, and then come back. And she was supposed to take Eli skiing, but her editor, being sneaky and knowing that she would probably use it as an excuse, cleared it with Eli first, because it's supposed to be just like a quick sort of 3-day trip, and there's plenty of time for skiing on his school break. So it all just, it goes wrong. In theory, yeah, it goes wrong from the very minute that they're supposed to start. The rental car is delivered to the newspaper office instead of to her house where it's supposed to be, picking her up. And so she's not there. So the rental car company cancels their reservation. And then there's no other rental cars to get except for this one that is literally held together with duct tape. So, and it just goes downhill from there. The photographer is sort of reclusive and sullen. Plus he drinks like fruit smoothies, and she doesn't understand how anybody would get a smoothie at a coffee shop instead of coffee.
I like smoothies, but I'm kind of with her here. Let's have some coffee.
It's winter.
Yeah, and it's winter, so he's got like this icy cold smoothie, and it's cold outside, and just, it just thing after thing. They're not even out of town yet, and things are already going wrong, and it keeps getting worse.
Until you think it can't get worse anymore, and then it does.
Yeah. And at the same time, I feel like Heather really, again, much like Krista did, she incorporates a really fabulous spiritual theme in the midst of all this laughter, which I just think takes some skill from both of them to be able to, not feel like, okay, funny time's over, now it's time for it's woven in so seamlessly that it's not like, what just happened, wait, I was just laughing and now suddenly you're preaching at me. That's not what happens at all, which I love. So I can stop there. I could go on and on forever just about this one, but I mean, we don't need to name every single hijinks situation that they get into. Probably.
We couldn't without reading the whole book out loud, which I mean, we could do that. But the boy, Eli, oh my word, he is the best. And I don't mean that he's a perfect specimen of anything except teenage boy, I guess. Yeah. But he's so funny. He's so good-natured, except for when he's not. Yeah. And I think he totally makes it. This story would not be a quarter as good or as funny if it was just the reporter and the photographer to nowhere.
That's very true.
That kid makes the story.
Yes. And I love it. And I love how, not just this one, but Krista's book, the teenagers parrot back the stuff the mothers say to them as well and turn it on them. And I love, it's hilarious the way they do that. Yes. And all the disasters that just go along with it. But I thought it was also funny at the beginning when they first meet, and she's looking at him with this ice cold smoothie thinking, you're just crazy. And he's looking at her thinking, you're meant to be a man. Like
that's right. That's right. Because it's Avery, and he would not have willingly agreed to go on this car trip with a woman. Yes. Yeah.
I'd forgotten that, but
I'd forgotten that too. Yeah.
And then the car, and then the car's just I used to drive a car that was old, but it wasn't that old. And I used to worry.
That old.
I used to burn through clutches. I'd always be having clutch problems with this car, and I'd break down in different places. Before there were cell phones, I used to be petrified about breaking down. So I went back to all my teenage angst of the first car that I used to worry about breaking down when I'm driving to and from uni across the city and all this kind of stuff. But it's just super fun, and it is hilarious. And just when you think it can't get any funnier, and nothing else could possibly go wrong, it does go wrong. And
because
then
they're not there yet.
Yeah,
yes,
exactly.
And the ending is just fabulous. And the way it all gets unpacked, it is just, it's probably Krista's book's the same. I'd love to see these as movies. I think they'd play out so well on the big screen as well, because there's so much sort of action setting stuff. And you sit there thinking, you sort of got this movie in your head that just keeps getting better and better and better. Yeah. So I really enjoyed Nowhere for Christmas as well. I think it's fabulous.
Yeah.
I think it would make a great movie as well. And it's probably apropos to mention that Krista Phillips does have a movie coming out soon-ish. I don't know if we've heard a date for it.
She was visiting it in November, the filming. Yeah.
The filming's in November.
Yeah.
So I don't know when it's planned to be released, but that was a fun book as well.
The Engagement Plot, which is
The Engagement Plot.
also an amusing book, although
All
I
of
would
hers
say
are.
not as amusing as A Kind of Country Christmas, but a good
different
book.
amusing.
Yes. Yeah. Cool. What's yours?
Mine. So I think I'm the reason for this topic. So if you hate this episode, it's my fault. And it all started, this whole conversation about doing this episode started because I was talking about how one of the Christmas books that I love rereading is Poles Apart by Marion Ueckermann. And of course, rereading it this year is very special because we lost Marion this year. So I've sat down and did my reread of Poles Apart. And it's like the ultimate Christmas books. So we've got Sarah, who's in South Africa in the heat of summer, because in the Southern Hemisphere it's hot, it's Christmas time. And she's in between houses. So she's staying with her sister and family. She's in one of the kids' bedrooms and she's waiting to be able to move into her own place. She's a romance author and has a book deadline, and she's just got no words. She's got complete writer's block. She just, in this environment, she just cannot write. And she also has a bit of a faith crisis thing going on at the same time. And her sister's trying to get her to go to church. And of course, it's the pastor's son is who her ex is from 4 years ago, and things happen there. And she just really doesn't want to get into that debate with her sister. And so she impulsively decides, she books flights and accommodation and rental cars to go to Lapland on the other side of the world.
Because her nephew challenged her. He said, why don't you just go visit Santa Claus?
Yeah.
She's like, I think I will.
Yeah. And I think I reread that this time, and I think, living in the world we live in now, there's very few places I can actually leave the country to go to from Australia at the moment. The thought of being able to book flights to go to the other side of the world and just jump on a plane is just like fantasy for me. So
for most of us.
It is. It's Christmas fantasy. So that really appeals to me, the idea that you can just jump on a plane and if you've got a British passport, just go to Lapland and off you go. And 4 flights later, she's there. And so she arrives there and goes to the mall or the small sort of shopping centre where Santa is, because she wants some inspiration from Santa so she can write this book. And of course, the hero is Santa's son. So it's his dad that normally does the Santa thing, but Nicholas is having to fill in. And so this crazy South African woman turns up at the very end of his thing. He's got his beautiful golden retriever dogs there, and one of them's pregnant, about to have puppies. And he's like, who's this woman that won't tell me her name and is asking me all these really weird questions? And it ends up that the cabins that he has, that she's renting the last one that he had available. And so this story is just so fun, and it's winter and there's reindeer and there's the sauna and then jumping in the icy cold water, Avanto, I think it's called. Instead of having a hot shower that she's used to. And the cultural stuff is just amazing, and the romance is beautiful. And obviously there's a great spiritual thread. And what I really liked about the faith element in this book is how it intertwines with the mythology and legend of Santa. And even though it's a Santa story, Marion really kept the focus on Jesus in it as well. So it had that great strong faith element that didn't bang you over the head, if that makes sense, but really fit it into the story. So I'll always go back and read Poles Apart, and it's definitely one of my favorite Marion Ueckermann books.
I have often said that Poles Apart is the perfect Christmas romance. It just ticks all the boxes for me. It's just perfect.
Yeah.
I just love it. And I think part of that too is, have any of us been to Lapland?
Nope.
Have you folks been to Lapland? Yeah, no, not so much. And yet Marion visited there, and she figured that this was going to go in her book. So she did the Avanto.
Yeah.
And sat in the sauna and jumped in the hole in the ice. And I'm just like, I remember her blogging about that.
Yeah.
I think it is Romance, or maybe I
did.
saw her pictures on Facebook, and I was just like, woman, you take this research thing way further than I would ever. And she totally did that. And the authenticity just shines out of the story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this one doesn't have a snarky teenager though, right?
It does not. No.
And it's not
but it has a pregnant dog. So, and
yes.
then puppies,
Close.
ultimately puppies. So, that's a win. Yeah, I really also just all of that you said. And the fact that the hero, Nicholas, is like, he's surprised when he sees that one of his cabins is free. He's like, how, because they're sought after for Christmas at Lapland. And so, he has a very strong connection to his faith. And so he's like, clearly God has a purpose for this. And then when the booking comes through and he pieces together that, that this is Sarah who, is clearly searching for something. I like the fact that he wants to fall in love with her, and he wants to feed her Santa facts, but more than that, what he wants for her is to re-find Jesus, and the true important thing. I really do appreciate when anyone takes a Christmas book that talks about Santa and ties it back well to Jesus, because because Santa can be so overwhelming sometimes, and it's like really missing the point. Really missing the point. But Marion never missed the point. And she certainly didn't in this either. Yeah. And still several funny moments, not full on rom-com, but several very funny moments.
Yes, the culture clash.
Yes. Yeah.
We do have 2 novellas. We have 2 stories with teenage kids. We have 2 long trips.
Yeah.
But they mix and match in different ways. So yeah, I enjoyed this little trip down memory lane over the last couple months. I just tucked one of them in here and there in my reading in the last couple months, and really helped. It helped set the scene for Christmas in my mind and heart.
Yeah. And I read Christmas at different times of year as well. I'm not just reading Christmas in November and December either. So
I agree. You can read it any of these 3. Plus, I mean, probably any Christmas book would be lovely, in the middle of April when you're kind of like, and you're ready for some sort of break, something changing, or, August, when you can't face back to school or whatever's going on, they're all just really, they're just good. They're just super good.
Yeah. Well, we do Christmas in July, particularly in the Alpine areas, because we don't have the white Christmas in Australia. So July is naturally a Christmas time. So people will do Christmas parties in July, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. Christmas in July here, mostly because it's so hot. Everybody's like, let's read about snow. Let's pretend we're not going to melt.
And so I think it works psychologically. If you read a book that's in a cold climate, you can convince yourself very temporarily that you're not sweating to death.
Yeah. Moment or two. for sure. All right. Do we have final thoughts?
I'm really interested to hear if there's any Christmas stories that our readers tend to go back to in the CCR genre. So I hope that they let us know what we should be rereading.
Please do.
And there are Christmas series as well that you can buy. So I don't tend to look for Christmas series, to be honest. I don't know. Some people may read Christmas all year round all the time. That's not me. So I'd be interested to hear if anyone has any Christmas series that they particularly like as well.
Like it. All right. We're good on time. So since we seem to be out of things to say, we'll just wrap up and remind you again, no episode next week, Christmas Eve. Enjoy your Christmas Eve without a Story Chats episode.
But we will be back to close out the year.
Yes, we will.
Yes.
We will be back again on New Year's Eve. So, fit us in before you go out to count down the new year. Later on that week, that's fine too. You don't have to listen on Friday.
But you could.
Joining us at Story Chats. Please do tell us your thoughts. What do you go back to every year or every couple years or in April when you need a break from the rain or whatever it is? What are the Christmas stories that you like to read over and over and over again? Leave a comment on the YouTube channel or on our Story Chats Facebook page, either one. Find information about the podcast at inspyromance.com/storychats. And if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell. We will not see you next week, but when we return, we'll be looking forward to seeing you. And in the meantime, don't forget to fall in love with a good book. Bye, everybody.
Bye and Merry Christmas.
Yes.
Merry Christmas.